All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. We are going to be breaking down the Week 8 core plays here for you guys. Let's go ahead and get into it. So again, guys, the tough part about this slate is figuring out what to do on the top end between Jonathan Taylor, CMC, and Bijan Robinson. Now, for me, I think it is pretty simple. We are at least playing Bijan Robinson. Just at his price, he's kind of the clear-cut click going against Miami. That just ends up being the great spot that we are getting. Now, whether or not you want to attach Jonathan Taylor and CMC to Bijan Robinson, that's going to be up to you guys. But my first click is definitely Robinson. And simple because he's the cheapest of those three top plays that we are getting, but he also could be the safest. It's a very good matchup against Miami. You could argue same thing for Jonathan Taylor against the Tennessee Titans. I get that. I would rank them Robinson, Taylor, and then CMC, but very close for all three of them. And guys, if we look at the data, it's going to back that up as well. So Bijan Robinson, slightly better value, 2.5x, JT 2.4x if we round up, and CMC 2.4x as well. Basically all coming in about the same ownership and around the same DFS points, although Bijan Robinson is projected to be the highest score on the slate, which obviously I do like. And then let's go ahead and get into my favorite kind of stack on the weekend. I feel like it's pretty darn obvious. Courtland, Sutton, and also Bo Nix. So really one of the interesting parts about this season thus far is we really haven't had to stack a quarterback with a receiver. I think that's all going to change this week with Courtland Sutton going against the Dallas Cowboys defense. Obviously, that's a great matchup, one of the easiest matchups for any receiver. The one slight concern that I have is that Dallas, although they give up a lot of air yards, a lot of receiving yards, and a lot of touchdowns, they don't necessarily give up a lot of receptions, which is partially the appeal of Courtland Sutton, is because typically speaking, we can lock in around 5 receptions and then 50 yards. We can lock in around 10 DFS points there, and then it just becomes whether or not he scores a touchdown. Okay, we look at week 3. Scored a touchdown, ended up scoring almost 27 DFS points there. Week 1 ended up scoring a touchdown, 18 DFS points, whereas last week, guys, very solid floor, 16.7 points, but obviously if he scores a touchdown, that's a much, much better day. And given the fact that it's a matchup with Dallas, that's going to end up being a matchup we want to target. And the nice part about Bo Nix is really just going to be the matchup, guys, and the price tag. So $6K for Bo Nix is just too cheap, coming in off of a slate where he absolutely crushed. My concern is that he's going to be extreme chalk, and because he's at this cheap price tag, everyone's going to be on him. So I do want to mention a slight pivot would be Caleb Williams, who also gets a pretty decent matchup going against the Baltimore Ravens. His pass catches have not been as good over the past 2 games. Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, well, because they really haven't had to pass the football because DeAndre Swift has been going off. Now, don't get me wrong, I like DeAndre Swift. I like Kyle Monanga as well as a deep flyer, but it wouldn't be surprising to see this end up being more of a pass-heavy game in terms of efficiency, I should say, in terms of touchdowns, I should say. Because, I mean, I don't think we should expect Caleb Williams to throw the football a bunch. So I did want to mention that as a potential pivot. And just as an FYI, guys, when we look at it from a value standpoint, Bo Nix is coming in as the second best value quarterback play on the slate, projected to get 3.3x, but also projected to get nearly 20 DFS points, whereas Rattler's projected to get it right around 16. He does need to throw for 2 touchdowns, I think, if he's going to get there. It's not terrible, but did want to mention that there as well. Then we take a peek at Courtland Sutton here, guys. It is worth calling out. Very high scoring game, 51 total points in that game. And again, kind of like last week, not getting that much ownership. Kind of strange here. It seems like an easy plug and play as he was last week for us, and that is just something I'll end up being overweight on the field by, probably double if he comes in around 11%. I'll probably be at 22%. Now, my other receiver core play is going to be Wan'Dale Robinson, guys, coming in at 5.2 on DraftKings, not getting any ownership, which to me is very shocking. I know the matchup with the Eagles in a game where they're 7.5-point dogs might be concerning to them, but that should lead to a pass-heavy script. We look at the receptions, guys, projected at 5.4, receiving yards 50 receiving yards there as well. So like a base, I would say, of about 10 DFS points, which he's projected at 12 right now. If he ends up scoring a touchdown, which for him, not really that likely, but still, the fact that he's coming in at 8% projected ownership to me is pretty darn crazy. And I will call it, this is a little bit more of a price point core play. Like if we are trying to fit in, let's say, Jonathan Taylor or CMC, Wan'Dale Robinson becomes one of the pretty good clicks that we are getting on the slate in that regard. And then we go ahead and get into the tight end core play, guys. I'm going to be going with Colston Loveland, priced at 3K. So my typical strategy throughout the years has been to try to punt at the tight end position, kind of go for the lowest price tight end play. That's probably going to give us 3x, unless we're getting like a smash spot for a tight end. And that's because with how the pricing is priced for this slate, that's kind of how the pricing has been for DraftKings in the past, where it's very tight with the pricing that we are getting, to the point where we have to try to jam in the studs. And the way we do that is by targeting cheaper tight end plays where the point difference typically isn't all that great. But this ends up being a pretty good matchup for Coulson Loveland. Cole Kmet is currently looking like he could end up sitting in this game. We look at the game last week, guys, 3 receptions, 4 targets, 24 receiving yards. I could see him getting around 75% of the snaps. And even if he gives us like 5.4 at this price tag, I would be okay with that. That being said, I do expect him to do better than that. Now, I do want to call it Tanner Conner at nearly the min price is also somewhat intriguing. It is a difficult matchup against Atlanta. I understand that. But with Darren Waller on the IR, we could see Tanner Conner step up into a higher role in regards to getting a touchdown, especially with Tyreek Hill obviously out as well. It's going to be more of probably a pass-heavy script here as well going against Atlanta Falcons. So did want to mention that there as well. And so this is kind of what I'm looking at right now as a base build. So these are, again, the core plays. I'm looking at 5 core plays here for you guys. From there, what can we do lineup path-wise? So I do really like Rachaad White, who ended up getting 80% of the work in the last game. Now, he was not productive in that game from a DFS standpoint. Only 8.4 DFS points. That was a more difficult matchup against Detroit. We do like the fact that he typically has a high floor in the receiving game. I mean, freaking 4 receptions for 6 yards. That is crazy. You know, you could at least typically give him at least 15 yards there. And in this matchup against the Saints, you do expect it to be a good matchup. And I do like the price tag for him. He is kind of chalky, which, albeit I get it, but don't necessarily love that. And then I still do like Zay Flowers kind of at his price tag. I just don't necessarily see him as a core play. Not a bad matchup. Again, with Lamar Jackson being back, we do like that. It does kind of feel like we should be choosing either Derrick Henry or Zay Flowers. Derrick Henry could end up having a big game, and he's at a cheap price tag as well. So DST wise, I do think I'm going to punt, guys. I really do. Probably just to Titans DST and hope they don't go negative, which is crazy. I don't really see a core play DST wise. And so flex wise, we are left with 7K there. Who could we end up on? You know, Cam Scatteroo, I don't mind there. I think that's fine. Drake London's fine. Or you could end up going Derrick Henry there as well. So that is kind of the interesting part about this slate. Now, I will say, if you want to get to CMC, I still kind of like this lineup approach as well. So not much has changed from the first look build, which is a little bit surprising. If you guys watched that video, you could end up going with someone like Van Jefferson if you want to there as well. Worth kind of Jaden Higgins is the receiver that's kind of projected to be the best like sub 4K value on the slate. But overall, you guys get the point. I think that ends up being a decent first look build for us. And so, guys, let's just go ahead and show you guys kind of what some lineups could look like when we include those core plays. And this has kind of been the approach really the whole season. A lot of the chalk has hit, so you are just being forced to play the core plays. So I like to do this. I think this is a good process. If you guys used this last week, you set yourself up for a pretty good starting point last week and really the last 4 weeks as well. So again, Bijan Robinson we'll put in there. We'll do Robinson, Wendell Robinson there, sorry. Sutton. And then we are going to do Bo Nix in there as a quarterback as well. And then Coulson Loveland as our core plays. Could also toss in like Jonathan Taylor. We'll just do that. And then CMC as well. Just to tell it, yes, we want to be on those plays. Let's just say we want to be on at least 6 of those plays in all of our builds. We're going to add that group. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to force kind of a QB stack with Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton just so you guys can see that. So what I did, guys, is I just set their min exposures to 100% just so you guys can see that there. And so if we are going to do that, we are going to end up with double tight ends, it seems like. And so I don't hate that. Like Dalton Schultz is fine. Again, I do kind of like getting into Tanner Conner if we ended up needing to get into a value. I think that ends up being fine. It is getting to a lot of Chris Olave as well. Again, I do like Zay Flowers. That is not something I put into the data, so it is naturally trying to get to Zay Flowers a lot there as well. The best lineup that we could potentially play using the core plays would be Bo Nix, CMC, Bijan Robinson, Loveland, Zay Flowers, Wendell Robinson, Coulson Loveland, Cade Otton, it likes, which, you know, between him and Van Jefferson, I think I guess I'd be okay with that. But I am probably punting to the defense again. Just want the Titans DST to not go negative. That's kind of, I think that's been my traditional strategy, and we're kind of going back to that now. I do want to take a peek at the flex here, but I was going to say, do we have any like good flex pivots we could make receiver wise? No, it is going double tight ends. So interesting there when you're trying to jam in those core plays. And again, I don't necessarily hate that. I think it ends up making sense. But again, guys, like I'm not saying do 100% Bo Nix and Courtland Sutton. I'm just trying to set you guys up for kind of the lineup path that we could be going with that's going to be successful. Now, I do want to say it has been, 4 pretty darn solid weeks in a row. Do not be surprised if a bad week happens. I do want to pump the brakes a little bit with that. And it is a much tighter week this week. So the margin of error, I think, is going to be in one way a little bit bigger. But if you're on a play that goes or if you're not on a play that goes off, then that's going to hurt more this week than it has in the past, because in the past several weeks, we've had plenty of great plays. Whereas if you're, let's say, fading CMC and in favor of JT and CMC goes off for 10 more points than JT or vice versa, you could be SOL that week. And it's just one slight decision that ends up changing the dynamic of your week. But that's going to do it for this video. I do want to remind you guys of the 9-to-5 membership. If you guys are interested in using the 9-to-5 lineup builder tool, the NFL DraftKings tool, head on over to 9to5sports.com. You can get access to all the tools for a low monthly cost of $10 a month, including that's going to give you access to all the prop tools as well as the NBA DFS tools as well. That's going to do it, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell as well. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck with all your lineups for week 8. Appreciate you being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.